What's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video. And originally there wasn't going to be a video today. I've been making a lot of content over the past few days, over the last couple weeks or so, and we've got free agency starting tomorrow, which is going to be an absolute grind. I'm going to be making videos reacting to all of the biggest moves, whether it is signings or even potential trades that we could see. So definitely make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of that coverage. But yeah, there wasn't going to be a video today until we got the bombshell news coming from Shams and Woj about James Harden. If you didn't know, today is the deadline for most players to either accept or decline their player options. Same thing with teams and their team options. And because of that, we've gotten some news. You know, Josh Hart accepted his player option. He's going to be with the Knicks for this upcoming season and is going to work on an extension. Jordan Clarkson is staying with the Jazz. You've got Herb Jones, whose team option got declined, so he and the Pelicans could work on a longer-term deal in free agency. It all makes sense. Like, we were expecting to get some news today, but I wasn't expecting the bombshell about James Harden that we just got, which is that James Harden opted into his player option, which is weird because we all kind of thought he would opt out of it and sign a long-term deal with the Sixers after the Rockets were kind of in the running for a while, but now it felt like they probably weren't going after him anymore and he didn't really want to be there. There was something that seemed off according to some Rockets reporters. They've kind of shifted their focus to like Fred VanVleet, for example, at the guard position, which we'll see if that ends up happening tomorrow. But yeah, it seemed like a foregone conclusion that Harden would opt out of his deal, sign a long-term contract for a bunch of money with the Sixers, and stay there alongside Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, the rest of that group to try and compete for a championship in this upcoming season. But instead, not only is he opting into this contract, but he's opting in so that he and the Sixers can work on a trade. Yes, James Harden now joins the list of a bunch of star all-star caliber players to be on the trade block. And according to some other reports that I saw, which I don't know how reliable they are, we could see a Harden trade as soon as before free agency opens at 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. This, of course, has rocked the NBA world. Nobody thought that a Harden trade would pop up right now, just, you know, less than 24 hours at this point from free agency. It's unbelievable, and it kind of just speaks to how ridiculously unpredictable the NBA is at this point. But yeah, I guess let's go ahead and break down this Harden potential trade, some of the leading destinations, and why this is actually happening. So according to Shams' article that he put out in conjunction with his tweet about the opting in and the trade requests, apparently the 76ers have never really been that interested in keeping James Harden on a long-term deal. The idea of having him for a couple of seasons is enticing, but not for having him on a 3-4 year deal, which is understandable. He's become somewhat injury prone over the past few years. He's visibly declining. Now, I'm not saying he's not good because James Harden is still an all-star caliber player. We saw him put up a couple of 40 pieces against the Celtics in this past year's playoffs. He led the league in assists. He still is a really good player, but he's quite clearly no longer the MVP caliber guy that he was in Houston. He's not the same player that he was in his first year in Brooklyn either. He's still really good and an all-star, but the decline is visibly coming for James Harden. So giving him like a 4-year deal where you're offering him, say, like 160 million, whatever, is a little bit concerning. I completely understand where the Sixers are coming from, but I do want to say at the same time, I don't know who they're going to get back in a trade for James Harden that helps them remain as competitive as they would be in the next couple of years with him on the roster, especially when you've got to prioritize winning a championship with Joel Embiid and making him happy to prevent, I don't know, maybe a potential trade request. So the next question we've got to ask is, where does James Harden end up? And there are a couple of locations that we've already been fed as potential suitors. Those include the New York Knicks, the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Phoenix Suns. Now with Phoenix, it's a bit of a weird situation because their main trade asset is DeAndre Ayton. He's the only one on that roster that they'd be willing to move that's making the money that matches getting James Harden. I don't even like the idea of James Harden over there in Phoenix. I mean, how does a James Harden, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal trio even work? Do you play Booker, I guess, at the 3? Like, the backcourt defense between Beal and Harden is going to be disastrous, and then you're paying a bunch more money when you were trying to trade DeAndre Ayton. It seemed like originally to bring in more depth. I just think that's kind of weird. So it seems like if that trade did happen, it would be Ayton to a third team, James Harden going to the Suns, and that third team sending some assets to the Sixers. But I don't know if that third team is going to be willing to give up enough assets that the Sixers would want in order to bring in DeAndre Ayton, whose trade value feels like it's not super high at the moment. So Phoenix feels like they're probably out for me, even though that would be an absolutely hilarious outcome. Then there are kind of the two more serious suitors, it feels like, with the Clippers and the Knicks. The Clippers to me are the really interesting one because theoretically, James Harden fits a role of need on the Clippers. They need that playmaking guy. They got a bit of that from Russell Westbrook this past season, but if they want to bring in more of a shooter, someone who might fit a little bit better with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, James Harden does make sense. And I think a grouping, and maybe they could even bring back Russ with that group. Maybe they run out Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Zubats. Like, that's a really good group if you can find some solid guys off the bench. That's probably one of the favorites in the Western Conference, even though the injury concerns continue to mount with that group, but it seems like something the Clippers aren't too worried about at this point. They're just going to kind of go full out if they have to. But at the same time, I don't know what the Clippers give up for James Harden. The rumored package would be like Marcus Morris, Norman Powell, like maybe a pick or two, which they don't even have that many assets because most of them are owed to Oklahoma City from the Paul George trade originally. So maybe like a Bones Highland, like a young player like that, but that's not a package I'm at all interested in if I'm Philly. I need pieces back for Harden that can help me compete with Joel Embiid right now to try and prevent him from wanting to leave at any point soon. You have to capitalize on his prime. You have an MVP caliber player. You have to get back some other star or significant pieces that at least increase the depth of your roster. None of those guys intrigue me whatsoever. Like, Norman Powell is good, but he's making a decent bit of money. Marcus Morris was bad this past season. Bones Highland is, I guess, an interesting young player, but I don't need another young guard on this roster. None of that intrigues me if I'm Daryl Morey. And I know they don't have that much leverage because it seems like Harden doesn't want to be there. Or they want to move on from him. It's out there in the open now that the two sides are looking to move on. And also, he's on a one-year deal, so they don't have leverage really at all in that situation either. But at the same time, we're talking about Daryl Morey, the guy that held Ben Simmons hostage for like half a year until the trade deadline to ensure that he got the best value possible. He waited a long time. He didn't deal Ben Simmons for the first, third, second, probably even like 50th offer. He waited until James Harden became available and made his move then. So I don't see him moving James Harden for these, salary filler guys in like a pick or two when he's trying to build around Joel Embiid. So if I'm the Sixers, I'm beginning that call with the Clippers by asking for Paul George. They could ask for Kawhi Leonard, but he's pretty much untouchable. There have been rumors that the Clippers have been talking about potentially moving on from PG, so maybe it's something they would at least discuss. Now, I don't think the Clippers would or even should make that move. Now, PG, again, has the injury concerns, which Harden also has some of as well, but I don't think they're going to split up the duo of PG and Kawhi Leonard to bring in another older guy who's making a lot of money and is somewhat injury prone at this point. I just don't think that makes them actively better. So I feel like the Clippers say no, but if I'm the Sixers, I'm not taking those random guys. I feel like if the Clippers and Sixers are going to make a deal, it's going to have to include Paul George. So to me, it feels like that probably just does not get done. Although I will say there have been some reports coming out that LA seems like the favorite at the moment. So maybe I'm completely off base and the Sixers maybe even involve like a third team to try and make this thing work. Maybe Tobias Harris goes to another spot if they're looking to make some sort of mega deal to really reshape this roster around Embiid as soon as possible. Maybe we see something crazy like that, but I would say for right now, the Clippers just don't make that much sense to me. So that leaves the number one spot, it seems like, as the New York Knicks, and they have been waiting for a star player to become available. They've got a bunch of draft capital. They've got some interesting young pieces that could help the Sixers round out their roster. I think he'd be a solid fit next to Jalen Brunson in the backcourt. I do worry a bit about the defense with Brunson being smaller and Harden not being a great defender. Also, you already have Julius Randle, who typically drops off in the playoffs, so assuming they don't give him up in this type of deal, you've now got him and James Harden, who also historically has had some playoff struggles here and there, so I don't know if that's a grouping you want to build, although I do think he actively makes them better, provides some more fun ways that you can operate on offense, some more playmaking, some shot making. I don't think it's a bad idea to possibly trade for James Harden, but at the same time, I feel like the Knicks have kind of been angling for more of that superstar that becomes available. Like if, say, a Kawhi Leonard became available, or even if, Joel Embiid eventually requests a trade, it feels like the Knicks could potentially look more towards a guy like him. I don't know. While the Knicks, I think, are seemingly a very possible destination for Harden, to me, it almost feels like they should and probably will rather just wait and see if that true championship, like number one guy superstar becomes available at some point soon. And in the way the league currently operates, that could be not that far off. Now, there is also the potential option that maybe Daryl Morey does not find a deal that he likes and Harden just enters the season on the Sixers. That always is a possibility. Again, we saw it with the Ben Simmons situation. And I feel like Harden would be more willing to play as he's getting older and he's trying to compete for a championship. And I don't think the relationship is severed like it kind of was with Ben Simmons and his teammates, Doc Rivers, all that stuff after Game 7 against the Hawks. I think it's a lot more likely that Harden would probably just go ahead and play, even though it's well known that both sides are looking for a deal. So I could see a world where Morey does not find a deal that he likes. He pulls the Ben Simmons situation where he says, okay, James, we're going to enter the season with you on the roster. I'll continue to gauge trade possibilities. And eventually, if we find something we like, we'll let you know and we'll just go ahead and make that deal. But otherwise, we're just going to have you play for now. And I think that could be fine for both sides. I don't think that's a bad outcome either way. So I do think that that is a possibility, even though a trade, because, this news is coming out, is by far the most likely outcome. All in all, I really have no idea where he gets moved to if he does get traded. The Clippers, again, are seemingly the favorite according to some reports, but with all that other external stuff going around, with the trade package just not feeling very viable, and you're dealing with Daryl Morey, who really never makes a deal unless he's getting a lot out of it, it feels really difficult to see that working. I don't know if Ayton, that 3-team deal, makes sense to materialize with the Phoenix Suns, and I also just hate the fit with James Harden over there. The Knicks make sense, but again, I think they might wait for a superstar and maybe even say, hey, if Harden's leaving and they don't get much back in that package, maybe Embiid becomes available at some point soon. I don't know. It feels like a weird scenario where I have no idea where he's going to end up. If you've got a prediction, let me know in the comment section below. And if you think it's going to be one of these teams, let me know what you think the package looks like. Who's a third team that could get involved with the DeAndre Ayton type of trade? And, maybe this trade ends up happening in the next couple of days. I saw someone say that there's a possibility it does. Maybe it takes longer. Maybe he goes into the season with Philly. There's a billion options out there on the table right now. I have no idea how to feel about this. I guess leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'll keep y'all updated. If he does get dealt, of course, there'll be a reaction video to that. And like I said, any big free agent moves, acquisitions, trades, anything that happens, any big rumors, I'll make sure to make videos on those as well in the next few days. Going to be a ton of content coming out, so definitely make sure to keep a lookout for that. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.